The stars stretched endless and indifferent outside the command spire of the Zathri flagship. Admiral Velker leaned against the obsidian railing, his 4 Talon fingers curling loosely around its edge. His eyes, slitted predatory, watched as another human colony burned beneath the fleet's bombardment. A smear of flame across a quiet world. It should have thrilled him, but it no longer did. Victory had become routine. Another nest of vermin extinguished, one of his lieutenants muttered with theatrical disdain. The others on the bridge chuckled, the sound dry and humorless. Velker didn't join their laughter. He had led campaigns for 30 cycles, watched countless species fold under the weight of the Empire's hunger, and humans were proving no different. Colonies shattered, refugees scattered, pathetic fleets thrown like twigs against a storm. The war was a word they used, but in truth, this was pest control. The lieutenant, emboldened by his peers, leaned closer to the projection of Earth spinning gently in the void. When we reach their homeworld, it will be their last illusion. Imagine the cries as their cradle burns. Velker's jaw flexed. Do not underestimate even a dying beast, Tsar. His voice was calm, almost weary, but it carried weight. The bridge hushed for a moment before conversation resumed in hushed tones. They respected him, but they also feared him. His warnings always carried an edge of remembered victories that none could quite erase. The fleet carved forward into soul space with the ease of seasoned predators. The first targets were the satellites and outlying stations, a feeble web of human machinery that popped one by one, scattering debris across the stars. No resistance worth mentioning. The humans had not even bothered to send a fleet to meet them. Reports came in, outposts silenced, power grids falling, communication lines severed. Officers spoke of it as if counting crops. Velker nodded absently, though his gaze lingered on Earth itself. The planet hung quiet, almost too quiet, its defense grid dormant, its ships still. Not a single desperate plea across the channels, not even the sputtering surrender speeches he had come to expect. Perhaps their leaders fled already, Tsar offered, smirking. They know the end when they see it. Velker ignored him. Something tugged at the edge of his instincts, a shadow of unease. Every conquest he had led followed a rhythm: noise, panic, collapse. Humanity, for all their supposed fragility, should be screaming. Yet the silence was absolute, like the calm surface of water concealing something beneath. He summoned the tactical overseer, a pale-skinned strategist whose cranial ridges twitched nervously. Deploy additional scouts. Full sweep of orbital space. And send infiltrators toward the ground. The strategist hesitated. Admiral, the surface shows no concentrated defenses. Our scans detect only civilian infrastructure. Then confirm it. Do not assume. Velker's tone sharpened, and the officer obeyed immediately, vanishing into the flow of bridge activity. Hours later, reports trickled in, then faltered. Scouts entered the atmosphere and disappeared. Drones sent to relay positions transmitted fragments of static before falling silent. Tsar frowned. Faulty equipment, perhaps. Human interference could not be so precise. Perhaps, Velker murmured, though his gaze narrowed. Patterns mattered, and this one was too deliberate. Still, the fleet advanced. Battleships repositioned, forming the familiar noose around the planet. Drones surged in greater numbers. Orbital bombardment cannons charged. It was the same as always, a pattern rehearsed across dozens of worlds. And yet, the humans still did not scream. Instead, transmissions began to crackle into the bridge. At first faint, distorted, then sharpening until every console flickered with the same broadcast. A human voice, calm, unhurried, filled the command spire. Zathri forces, you have trespassed in Earth's sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or be dismantled. This is not a negotiation. The words carried no bravado, no trembling fury. Just a flat certainty, as if stating the laws of physics. The bridge went silent. Officers exchanged looks, some incredulous, others faintly unsettled. Tsar scoffed, though his scales tightened around his jaw. They dare to threaten us. A single planet dares to lecture the Empire. No reply followed. The message repeated once, then vanished, leaving only the hum of engines. Velker's claws tapped the railing, deliberate and thoughtful. He studied Earth's surface, the endless cities glittering faintly in night. They did not beg, he said softly. What does it matter? Tsar snapped, irritation masking the faint tremor in his voice. They will burn the same as the others. Perhaps. But Velker's instincts stirred. He had survived long not by arrogance, but by caution. Humans had been scattered, weak, predictable. Yet the silence of their homeworld was something else entirely. It was not panic, it was patience. On the lower decks, pilots checked their instruments. Engineers whispered of faulty readings and vanishing scouts. Officers barked at them to ignore superstition. Still, rumors spread that Earth's surface was watching, that something waited there unseen. Above it all, Velker remained still. He felt it now, the subtle wrongness in the void, like a blade concealed behind a smile. For the first time in many cycles, he could not predict the outcome of his next strike. The galaxy had grown too comfortable with human weakness. Perhaps that illusion was about to end. The order to fire hovered on his lips, unspoken. The fleet poised at the edge of annihilation and revelation, unaware which path would come. Velker's gaze lingered on the planet below, its silence heavier than 1,000 screams. He wondered, not for the first time, if they had mistaken the prey for something else entirely. And still Earth waited. The silence that followed the human transmission gnawed at the bridge crew more effectively than any bombardment could. Velker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gaze fixed on the planet's surface. The humans had not panicked, had not pleaded. They had spoken with the unyielding certainty of predators guarding their den. The officers shifted uneasily at their stations, watching him for direction. He did not give the order to fire. When the infiltrators' last signals came through, fleeting glimpses of empty streets, unmanned defense towers, the hollow echoes of abandoned cities, the confusion thickened. The humans had not mobilized a desperate defense at all. They had simply left silence in their wake. Zar slammed his fist into a console, snarling. Cowards. They hide from us even on their homeworld. We should scour the planet clean and finish this charade. Velker's eyes narrowed. And yet, where are their fleets? The question lingered like a shadow. Dozens of colonies had fallen without organized defense, their ragtag vessels destroyed with little resistance. Earth, by every measure, should have been frantic to protect itself. But its skies were empty, no swarms of ships, no terrified scrambling. The humans had let the invaders come. The command deck trembled as another squadron of alien drones blinked from sensors, vanishing mid-flight. No debris, no flare of weapons fire, just gone. The operators scrambled through their panels, desperate to recover signals. Velker watched the chaos and felt a cold thread of realization wind through his mind. Patterns again, disappearance after disappearance, each too clean to be chance. The main holoscreen flickered. For a moment, it showed only static, then sharpened into a view of space far beyond Earth's orbit. Dozens, no hundreds, of human ships emerged from the dark. Their hulls were black angular, almost invisible until they ignited with precision thrusts. No panic, no scattered resistance. They moved as if every trajectory had been rehearsed, every formation calculated years in advance. One of his bridge officers choked out a report. Admiral, these ships, they were hidden. Entire fleets cloaked within asteroid belts, solar shadows, we never detected them. The human transmission returned. The same voice, the same calm tone. You were warned. Now we will act. Before Zar could sneer, before the counselors observing remotely could issue their demands, the human fleet struck. Not with blaring weapons and burning skies, but with surgical precision. Wormholes snapped open like knife slits in the void, disgorging ships into the heart of the Zathari formation. Missiles struck not at random, but directly into reactor cores and command centers. Beams of energy cut through the weak points of shields as though the humans had dissected them piece by piece. The bridge shook violently as their outer cruisers vanished from aboard. Zar clutched the railing, his bravado cracking. Impossible. How could they? Velker steadied himself, his mind racing. He understood. Every destroyed colony, every failed defense, every seemingly weak gesture from the humans had been intentional. They had been feeding the Zathari arrogance, teaching them to underestimate. The war was a masquerade, a lie carefully woven, so that when the mask fell, the revelation would cripple not just ships, but confidence itself. Admiral, the strategist cried, voice breaking, our comm relays, they're collapsing. They know every frequency, every encryption. On the display, human ships continued their work, striking methodically. They didn't pursue fleeing vessels, didn't scatter into chaos. They dismantled the Zathari fleet the way one might strip a machine for parts. A fresh wave of images filled Velker's console. Human war footage, intercepted from the transmission itself. Ancient battles, trenches of mud, skies aflame with bombers, oceans torn apart by submarines. World wars fought across continents. Later images showed cities erased in blinding flashes, soldiers locking eyes across ruined streets, guerrilla fighters rising from rubble to strike empires larger than themselves. The bridge crew stared in silence. Velker felt his throat tighten, though he kept his expression composed. This was their history, not a history of peace, but of constant war. Humanity had not stumbled reluctantly into violence. They had been shaped by it, defined by it, until it became the marrow in their bones. They prepared for us, Velker whispered. The words were meant for himself, yet the bridge crew heard them, and fear rippled outward. Tsar's defiance faltered into something closer to disbelief. They sacrificed their colonies, their own people, just to lure us into this. No, Velker said, his voice low and sharp, cutting through the clamor. They sacrificed illusions. They allowed us to believe they were weak, and we devoured the lie. Another explosion rattled the flagship. Alerts screamed through the spire. Entire wings of their fleet were gone, wiped from existence in minutes. Officers reported contradictory data, ships blinking in and out as wormholes opened behind them, beside them, inside formations once considered unbreakable. Velker clenched his hands, forcing steel into his voice. Hold the line. Regroup in defensive lattice formation. Buy time. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. Time was precisely what humanity was stripping from them. Every passing second belonged not to the Zathri, but to their enemy. The humans were not trying to prove strength. They were demonstrating inevitability. When the human transmission returned, it carried no gloating, no demands for surrender. Only a statement delivered in that same flat tone. This war ends now. The bridge officers looked to Velker, fear etched into every motion. For the first time in his career, he did not know what order to give. He thought of the council back home, the endless chamber of voices who would still call humans primitive, who would insist this was temporary. They would not understand. Not until it was far too late. The holoscreen displayed the collapse of their rear flank. More fleets blinked out, their signatures lost forever. Velker felt the weight of revelation settle over him fully. Humanity had never been at war. They had been preparing, watching, waiting. And the Empire had walked blind into their jaws. The calm voice echoed one last time before silence reclaimed the bridge. You mistook patience for weakness. That was your only mistake. And it will be your last. Velker closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with grim resolve. The war he thought he commanded had ended the moment they arrived at Earth. What lay ahead was something else entirely, something the Empire was unready to face. And somewhere deep inside, beneath layers of discipline and pride, a shard of fear pierced through him. He too had believed the lie. The council chamber on Zathar Prime rang with the cacophony of voices layered in anger, fear, and disbelief. Holograms of scattered admirals flickered around the great circular hall, their images fractured by disrupted signals. The war, they insisted, was not lost. Humanity was a single-world species, a minor power with limited reach. Their fleets were surely stretched thin, their resources bound to collapse under the strain of prolonged resistance. The Empire had weathered rebellions before. This was no different. Velker listened in silence, his image projected among them. His claws tapped slowly against the armrest of his chair, a rhythm that betrayed his growing impatience. They argued as if the humans were a mere nuisance, yet he had seen the truth firsthand. He had felt it, that clinical inevitability, in the way their ships moved, in the way their silence spread dread more effectively than any weapon. They dismantle us with precision, he said at last, his voice cutting through the din. The chamber quieted. They do not fight for territory or glory. They fight to end this war. And they will. One of the counselors, an elder draped in the golden sigils of lineage, scoffed. You speak as though they are gods, Admiral. They are flesh and blood, as fallible as we. This empire has stood for 1,000 cycles. No single species will undo it. Velker's jaw tightened. He wanted to snarl, but he kept his tone measured. They have already undone it. Every shipyard we rely on is catalogued in their archives. Every fleet movement anticipated. They know us as we do not know ourselves. You cling to pride while the foundation crumbles beneath us. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some exchanged uneasy glances, others sneered, unwilling to yield to fear. One younger strategist spoke with trembling conviction. "If what you say is true, Admiral, then we must unleash the full weight of our forces now. Burn their planet to ash before they can strike deeper." Vaelker's eyes narrowed. "You still do not understand. They let us come to Earth. They wanted us there. If we burn their world, what will it matter if they already command the stars?" The strategist faltered, but the elder counselor raised his voice above the uncertainty. "Fear makes you see phantoms, Vaelker. Humanity is a flame that will extinguish itself once its fuel runs dry. We will not warp our empire's policies for the sake of one troubled admiral's paranoia." The word stung, though Vaelker betrayed nothing. He had warned them. Whether they listened was no longer relevant. Outside the chamber, the war was already shifting. In the days that followed, reports poured in, fleets vanishing without a trace, communication relays going silent, sectors falling not to conquest, but to paralysis. Rumors swelled among the people that the humans were not merely warriors, but something older, something inevitable. The propaganda that painted humanity as fragile and divided no longer held weight. Fear eroded it faster than any weapon. Within his own flagship, Vaelker moved through the corridors in silence, acknowledging the salutes of his crew without warmth. Their eyes followed him differently now, not with the easy arrogance of victors, but with the brittle hope that he might know how to stem the tide. He did not, but he could not let them see that. At the command spire, Zar awaited him, restless and pale. His earlier bluster was gone, worn away by the brutal efficiency of human strikes. "Admiral," he began, almost hesitant, "if they know us so well, then what hope remains? Should we not withdraw and preserve what fleets we have left?" Vaelker studied him. Zar's arrogance had rotted into doubt, a transformation that mirrored the Empire itself. He could not despise him for it. Fear was natural in the face of inevitability. "If we withdraw," Vaelker said quietly, "they will follow. They will dismantle us at the heart as surely as they do in the fringes. The choice is not whether we fight, it is how long we can endure." The ship shuddered as a wormhole bloomed outside the viewport, a rift spilling light into the void. From it poured human vessels, sleek and silent, already angling toward critical systems. The crew leapt into action, shouting orders, firing weapons that struck nothing but shadows. The humans vanished and reappeared, each move designed not to destroy, but to cripple, to suffocate. Vaelker's jaw clenched as he gave the order. "Redirect all power to the inner lattice. Protect the core. Buy us time." It was an order born not of hope for victory, but of necessity. Yet even as the crew obeyed, the outcome unfolded as he expected, precisely as the humans had planned. They were not improvising. They were executing a design long prepared, every move deliberate, every strike a thread in a larger pattern. Through the chaos, Vaelker found himself staring at the silent hologram of Earth stored in his console. The planet had not needed to fire a weapon to cripple an empire. It had waited. It had let them believe the lie until belief itself became a weapon. Another human transmission pierced the noise, its calmness almost cruel. "Zathri resistance is futile. Cease aggression. Survival remains possible." The crew froze at the words. Some glanced toward Vaelker, silently begging him to answer. Others simply trembled, as if waiting for an executioner's blade. Zar whispered, almost to himself, "They don't even sound angry. That terrifies me more than rage ever could." Vaelker did not answer at first. He let the silence stretch, let his crew absorb the truth they already knew. Then quietly he said, "This is not a war. It is a demonstration." The humans withdrew as suddenly as they had come, leaving the flagship battered but intact. Systems smoldered, alarms wailed, but the core survived. They had spared it deliberately, a gesture that unsettled more than destruction ever could. It was a message: we could end you at will. When the quiet returned, Vaelker sat in his command chair, his expression carved from stone. His officers waited for orders, but he gave none. He thought of the council, still clinging to pride. He thought of the Empire's citizens, whispering of invincible humans. And he thought of the cold certainty in that human voice, a voice that did not plead or boast, but simply declared. The truth was dawning too slowly for the Empire, but Vaelker knew it with crushing clarity. The conflict was no longer about territory or conquest. It was about survival in a galaxy where humanity had revealed its true face. He let out a slow breath, his voice low enough only Zar could hear. "We are not their enemy. We are their example." The younger officer turned toward him, eyes wide with the weight of that realization. For once, he did not argue. And beyond the viewport, the stars shimmered with silent threat. Humanity was still moving, still preparing, and the Zathri were already too late to stop them. The Zathri homeworld glittered beneath a shroud of orbital defenses, its skies bristling with weapons, its fleets arrayed in rigid formation. To its people, the sight promised invulnerability. To Velker, staring out from a flagship's command spire, it looked like the posture of prey that had finally realized the predator was at its throat. Reports streamed in of collapsing sectors, of entire provinces where Zathri ships surrendered without firing. Humanity had not merely defeated fleets, they had shattered certainty itself. The Council had ordered every available vessel to converge, a last stand against what they still called an upstart species. They spoke of honor, of legacy, of destiny. Velker had listened to their speeches with the grim patience of a condemned man listening to the rites of execution. They still did not understand. War was their theater, their symbol of dominance. For humanity, war was anatomy, a discipline carved into their marrow. Tsar stood at his side, shoulders taut, his earlier arrogance ground down into a gaunt edge of determination. If they come here, Admiral, the Council will expect us to fight to the last. Velker's gaze never left the stars. We will fight, but the battle is already theirs. We are not deciding victory. We are deciding whether anything survives the fall. Even as he spoke, the first tremors rippled across the defense grid. Wormholes blossomed open like wounds in the fabric of space, pouring forth human vessels. They did not roar into battle with grand formations. They appeared silently, methodically, already positioned at the Empire's weakest arteries. Energy spikes surged as communications blacked out, command relays went dark, and orbital defenses blinked off one after another. Panic swept the bridge as alarms screamed. Tsar barked orders, trying to project authority, but the crew's movements faltered. The enemy moved too quickly, too deliberately. It felt less like a battle and more like dissection. Velker rose to his full height, his voice cutting across the chaos. Steady your stations. Hold what you can. We will not give them our fear. His tone carried iron, even as dread hollowed his chest. On the view screen, the Zathri fleets broke formation. Entire wings fled, scattering like startled prey. Humanity did not pursue them. Instead, their ships carved through strategic points, disabling orbital reactors, crippling defense hubs, blinding sensors. Every strike spared civilians, every maneuver bypassed wasteful destruction. It was not mercy. It was precision, the same message as always. We can kill you. We choose not to. A transmission pierced the din. The same voice as before, unhurried, unshaken. Zathri command. This is your final engagement. We will not annihilate you. Stand down and survive. Resist, and only your pride will die with you. The words silenced the bridge. Some officers trembled openly. Others stared with hollow eyes at their failing screens. Tsar whispered, "They speak as though the outcome was written long ago." Velker answered quietly, "It was." The enemy surged closer, and the flagship trembled under the assault. Systems failed one by one, sparks showering the deck. A direct hit scorched the hull, but the core held. The humans did not finish them. Velker understood. They wanted him alive. Moments later, their flagship was ensnared, shields gutted, weapons disabled. The human vessels surrounded them not like hunters circling prey, but like surgeons ready to complete an operation. Then the transmission changed. This time it was not a faceless voice. A human commander appeared on the screen, face calm, eyes steady. He did not gloat, did not sneer. He simply regarded Velker as one soldier might another. "Admiral, your empire is finished, but your people do not have to be." The words struck deeper than any weapon. Velker felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him, the arrogance of his council, the blind faith of his officers, the silent terror of his people. He had fought countless battles, but this was the first where victory felt like submission to truth. "What do you offer?" His voice was steady, though his chest ached with the admission. "Governance," the human said simply. "You will rule your people under our oversight. Keep order. Prevent chaos. You may resist and watch your empire disintegrate into ash, or you may accept and ensure survival. We have no need for slaves. Only stability." The counselors, still linked through fractured channels, shouted in outrage, their voices a storm of denial. Velker ignored them. He studied the human's eyes, searching for cruelty, for arrogance. He found only certainty. They did not want destruction. They wanted control. And they had already won it. Slowly, Velker inclined his head. Then I accept. Not for the Council, not for the Empire. For the people who deserve to see another dawn. The human gave a single nod. Then you will have it. The transmission cut, leaving only the silent collapse of resistance across the planet. One by one, Zathari fleets power down, surrender signals flooding the channels. The war, which had never truly been a war, was over. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Some wept, others stared blankly at their consoles. Tsar leaned heavily on the railing, his voice hollow. So this is how empires die. Not with fire, with inevitability. Velker placed a hand on his shoulder. His grip was firm, not unkind. No empire lasts forever. But survival, that endures if we choose it. As the human fleets withdrew into disciplined orbits, leaving the Zathari intact but broken, Velker turned once more to the viewport. The stars glittered as they always had, indifferent to the fall of empires. Yet something had changed. Humanity's shadow stretched across the galaxy now, not through conquest, but through revelation. They had reminded every species of a truth too long ignored. Patience is not weakness, and silence can be deadlier than 1,000 screams. For the first time in his life, Velker felt no pride in his rank, no faith in the empire that had shaped him. What he felt instead was respect, sharp, humbling, and cold as the void. Humanity had waited, hidden behind masks of fragility, until the moment came to reveal what they truly were. And when they did, the galaxy shifted. He spoke softly, more to himself than to anyone else. The war was a lie, but only they knew. And now everyone does. The words lingered in the silence, carried into the still air of the command spire, a confession and a warning in one. And beyond the viewport, the human fleet shone like the heralds of a new age, their calm precision a promise of a galaxy that would never again mistake them for prey.